The dark underbelly of debt collection, a shadowy world of abuse and exploitation. Sean Letcher's once vibrant spirit has been extinguished by 15 grueling years spent in the ruthless debt collection industry. The relentless pursuit of unpaid bills and loans has left an indelible mark on his soul, shattering his former self. Haunted by the horrors he witnessed, Letcher breaks his silence, determined to expose the grim reality that lurks behind the closed doors of call centers. "We are treated like slaves, like utter garbage," Letcher laments. Driven by a profound belief that the average Australian would be aghast at the true nature of debt collection practices, he paints a chilling portrait of an industry rife with ethical breaches and regulatory apathy. In 2012, while employed by a prominent debt collector, Letcher was instructed to seize the home of a Queensland woman to settle a $90,000 debt. The devastating circumstances surrounding her case were beyond comprehension. She had been brutally raped the same week her husband had passed away. Yet, her pleas for mercy fell on deaf ears, and she was forced to sell her home to appease her debtors. Cases like these are not isolated incidents, Letcher claims. At another debt collection company, he witnessed the manipulative tactics employed by skip tracers, individuals tasked with tracking down debtors who have vanished into thin air. These operatives resorted to creating fake social media profiles to gather information about their targets, a violation of privacy and a betrayal of trust. Skip tracers are not the only ones who engage in unethical practices. Letcher describes a culture of intimidation and harassment that permeates the industry. Collectors have been known to target friends and family of debtors, pressuring them to settle the outstanding debts. In one instance, an agent was dispatched to a debtor's child's school, a blatant attempt to cause public embarrassment and emotional distress. Letcher also raises concerns about regulatory enforcement, which he characterizes as pitiful and non-existent. He cannot recall a single instance where regulators intervened to curb unethical conduct by his employers. "Over my 15-plus years of experience, I cannot ever recall feeling the relevant bodies have put any pressures on these companies to act in an ethical manner," he says. Perhaps something may happen on a case-by-case basis, but who has looked at the entire picture as a whole? In one particularly egregious case, Letcher was instructed to disregard a warning from the ombudsman to cease charging excessive late fees. The instruction was to aggressively pursue the fees but, at one mention of making a complaint, to just waive the fees, he recalls. Letcher's account is corroborated by numerous sources who worked in the industry, all speaking on condition of anonymity. They paint a consistent picture of an industry where legal and ethical boundaries are regularly transgressed. While not all debt collection firms engage in such nefarious practices, there is a widespread culture of predatory lending and ruthless debt recovery tactics. Many debt collection firms take great care to comply with their legal and ethical obligations, acknowledged one source. But there are definitely those who deliberately skirt around restrictions to lend to vulnerable people with little capacity to pay, before charging astronomical interest. Another source highlighted the psychological toll of erroneous debt recovery communications, particularly on vulnerable debtors. Technical errors can happen sometimes, for example sending unnecessary text messages, even though customers are already in a payment plan, he explained. It causes a lot of stress, and those vulnerable ones most of the time called back, and started abusing all collectors. Occasionally we may get self-harms or threats calls, we got lots of them during COVID. Letcher's decision to speak out stems from a deep sense of remorse and a desire for atonement. "I don't hide away from paying my comeuppance, and I realize I owe a debt to the people of this country," he says. The revelations made by Letcher and other industry insiders have sent shockwaves through the community, raising serious questions about the efficacy of regulatory oversight and the ethical standards of debt collection practices. It is now imperative that authorities take swift and decisive action to address the systemic failures exposed by these whistleblower accounts. The victims of abusive debt collection tactics deserve justice, and the public deserves assurance that their financial and personal well-being is safeguarded.